Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contracts, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Innovation Podcast, your source for all things innovation. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so I have Joe Ori on the line. He's co-founder and chief communications director over at Six Labs. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, Adam. Thanks for having me.
All right, Joe. So I'm excited to have you on the show today. So we're going to talk about some of the challenges that the cannabis industry needs to overcome, and I'm excited to get into that because you do have a unique vantage point with what you're doing over at Six Labs. But before we get into that, let's go a little bit further into Six Labs. So tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
So Six Labs is a new company. We just launched in 2019. It was a collaborative effort by actually 6 guys, which that's where the name comes from. And it also stands for, it actually also stands for the Universal Sign of Measurement. So SI is the Universal Sign of Measurement, and then we added the X to make sense and the conformity with the 6 guys that started it.
So tell us a little bit more about the function of Six Labs and some of the kind of what your vision is for this. I know you said 2019, but I want to get a feel for where you want to take this company.
Yeah, so the group came together organically. We never had to go outside the group, and we had come together. We were all very successful businessmen in our respective professions in law and restaurateuring and marketing, as well as a tax accountant and a builder. So we had kind of all the ingredients to sort of get what we needed to get together to put a collaborative effort to not go outside the group to start this company. So we landed in Michigan for various reasons, and Michigan had a medical program for 2008. So when I tell people, the Michigan's got a new program, they're like, well, wait a minute, it's been around since 2008, but it was a very flawed system that led to extreme black market sales. And I mean, when I tell you, literally there would be illegal dispensaries that would open and start selling black market cannabis where there was no license to do so. They'd have, hundreds of thousands of dollars of product that would get raided. The police would come in, shut them down, and they would stay shut down for a couple of days and reopen, and it became rampant. So Back in about 2000, yeah, it's crazy. So back in 2017, the state basically said we're going to rewrite the laws, and they opened up the doors to new companies, and we saw a huge opportunity because of the massive black market consumption in the state, and we basically said we're going to come in and create the next generation cannabis for the next generation cannabis user. And so we toured the entire country for several months, begged and knocked on doors of every grow facility on the West Coast and toward the East. And we took copious notes, found all the things that we saw everyone was doing wrong, found the things we liked about each one, and then we tried to do it one better. And so we truly created what I believe, and I would challenge anyone who wanted to, probably the most innovative and state-of-the-art cannabis grow facility, definitely in the state of Michigan, and I would argue in the United States.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And what groundwork you did. I like it and I think one of the things that the cannabis industry has had in its infancy, now it's changing a bit, but because of guys like you and your team, is that it had this kind of cachet to where people thought, that the people that were attracted to it, like they weren't necessarily a serious business person type. And now that you see, like the process you just now went through, that's the same process of launching any business, like if it's done well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just in the quality of the people that work for us. You know, I mean, we went to a lot of the grow facilities in Colorado and California, not to knock them. I mean, there's a lot of innovative companies out there as well, but a lot of them still had the old guard of the growers that, you know, had been doing it illegally. And now what you're seeing is a market that's blossoming in both the type and quality of the individuals that come and work for you, who have, you know, multiple degrees in agriculture and PhDs in science. And we set out to bring those people into our company because we saw the future of cannabis, saying, you know, this is really boils down to, Adam, is we said someday, not so far in the distant future, it's going to be legal by the federal government. When that happens, the FDA is going to get involved. And we said, we have the opportunity here, because we're a new company and we were very well funded, to say we're going to create a facility that's truly laboratory environment, to where if the FDA comes in eventually and says, okay, you pass, you don't, if we don't pass, no one's passing. That's basically what we said. If we don't pass, then no one's passing. So that's, you know, because we don't really know what they're going to want, right? I mean, we don't know what the FDA is going to require. So we said, our facility is so organic and so, you know, there's not a single bacteria. We have a HVAC system that's antiviral, and, you know, we did this, you know, before we even, you know, had a pandemic. So a lot of the things that we thought of ahead of time, we made special space in our facility that we're not monetizing right now, but we know in the future we will monetize by doing research and laboratory testing of our own. So we kind of said, you know, we need to do this. We're going to do it right. You know, we're an early sort of late adapter, so we're not the first cannabis company in the United States, but we absolutely aim to be the best and create a new generation of cannabis.
Oh, that's amazing. And so I think it's a good transition. So you've given us some of your backstory and the vision. Let's give a little maybe education piece to the challenges that cannabis industry needs to overcome to kind of get to that next level, because you do have a really unique vantage point, having seen, you know, all these other operations. So where do you want to start with that one?
Well, I mean, first we could start right in our own state. So obviously I told you the background about, you know, the black market, but then what happens is, you know, these legalized cannabis companies come in here, and there was a caregiver program and then some companies that came online. And if I tell you, you know, over the last couple of years, at one point, 75% of the cannabis that was legal in the state of Michigan was not passing testing. And not passing testing can be for various reasons. And, you know, there could be dangerous levels of yeast, mold, salmonella, and then actually pure toxins like arsenic and lead and mercury. And that's unfortunately what the black market user, you know, has been doing for generations, and probably thinks it's still okay, but it's actually not, because what we found is that even when some of the companies who are legal and can control the environment are testing out, they're testing positive way beyond acceptable levels of these infiltrates. So we basically said, we're going to try to create, you know, a purely clean cannabis, to where not only do we pass the test in the state of Michigan, but we get to a point where they're non-detectable. And we said, you know, we looked at it like this. We said, if you walk into Whole Foods, you know, and that's who we believe is the next generation cannabis consumer, the people who are shopping Whole Foods, who care about what's on labels. And you said, well, you can get salad here. We have this lettuce here that has 0.02, you know, microbials of arsenic or lead, versus one that has 0. You know, you're going to say, well, the first one doesn't have much. It's probably, it passes FDA regulation, but I'm certainly going to take the one that has basically non-detectable levels. And what we're trying to do is we're aiming to get to that point where there's truly 0 infiltrates that can be detected in the cannabis. And that leads to solutions for several other challenges that we learned about as we toured the country and interviewed an innumerable amount of cannabis cultivators and people in the industry. And, you know, we did exhaustive market research as well. So, you know, the first thing is confusion and intimidation at the purchasing point. So, you know, there's thousands of different strain names. You know, they can create a hugely difficult shopping experience for even, you know, not just the novice, but even the moderate cannabis user. And it can be expensive, because you go through weeks of purchasing trying to find something that's right for you, and until you find that, you could be wasting a substantial amount of money. Then it comes into the fact that you actually find one that you like, that makes you feel right, and is good for whatever purpose you're going to use it, and then it's not the same consistency the next time. So one of the things we said is we're going to create names based on the experience the cannabis user has in order to aid in the consumer's choice at the point of sale. And we're going to be rolling out our consumer product line very soon. Right now, we're only selling, our wholesale products because we wanted to, before we roll out our consumer brand, we wanted to perfect everything. So we were going to do that early, but we're actually saying, you know what, let's wait. We don't need to do that right now. So I don't even want to give you the name of it yet, but we're going to be rolling that out very soon. And then obviously the next challenge is product quality, and I think we touched on that a little earlier. The next generation cannabis for the next generation, consumer. It's basically ensuring to the user that you have the cleanest product you're ever going to have available to you in the, what you would expect when you go into Walgreens after your doctor gave you a prescription, for a certain pharmaceutical drug. You have a certain reliance that, okay, this has been screened by the FDA, this is packaged by this company, this is processed and manufactured by this company, and you rely on the company all the way down. So we wanted to give the consumer literally a truly seed to sale experience to where they know where it's coming from, they know who packaged it, they know who stored it, they know where it went and how it laid and rested for its time period before it went into your body. And we're all about labeling. So we're going to be pushing the state to enhance labeling features. We're going to try to basically change the game.
That's really exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, there's a lot we could go into. I mean, obviously, these things all bleed into one another, Adam. So, when you talk about confusion and intimidation with the product, as far as what the name is, and then product quality, then you get into lack of consistency. And, that also is, something that can be controlled with extraordinary due diligence at the seed level. And that's what we're trying to do. Different cultivators and processors make it difficult for consumers to replicate an experience. So our product line is going to be designed to deliver a very specific and consistent effect. The other challenge we kind of, discussed already is toxicity. When we founded the company, as I said, most of the product in Michigan was testing positive for pesticides, heavy metals, and other toxins. So we basically said, we're going to create better products and a standardized testing protocol to eliminate this problem and, provide the consumers with healthier options and make it a lifestyle brand almost, if you will. And then the most important one we see is transparency. Confusion, the amount of strains that are out there, it bleeds into this type of problem where, there's no transparency. Because it's not federally legal, I'm not blaming all this, that I'm saying on cannabis companies.
For sure.
It's a strange environment because you have this multiple strains being created by different cultivators all throughout the country, and since it's not federally legal, there's no real brand that you can put out there and say, okay, this becomes the national brand. You guys can rely on us. Like if you go to McDonald's in Michigan versus a McDonald's in Idaho, you would expect relatively the same consistency, right? In fact, some people would expect extraordinary consistency. We're not there yet with cannabis. So, we are basically in this period where the industry is blooming, and one thing that's not talked about enough is how just what the level of innovation is. I mean, from the years of just the past few years of going to the cannabis conventions, the level of technology and advancement is incredible. Everyone talks about, the flower and, whether this state went legal, whether that state's recreational, what their program looks like, how difficult is it to get a license. But what no one is really paying attention to, and they should be, is the tech boom that is coming with this industry, And so we basically built our facility to be able to modulate. We can, as new advancements come, we have the ability to transition and implement them into our facility. We're obviously looking at other options. We've applied in Illinois, a very difficult market to get into, but they have a craft grow period, license application period, which we applied for. And I'll add that we're basically trying to be a craft grower with a large facility. And we believe that can be attained. And, so far, to be honest with you, we got our first harvest tested, and our levels were so low, and this was just in our first run. We were expecting, probably have some issues, not pass for one reason or another. Not only did all of our cannabis pass in our first harvest, but the toxicity levels were 1/10 in most cases of the state-mandated minimum limits. So we already are on the right path.
Wow.
We're super optimistic about it. So,
well, congrats on that, first of all, on that first run. Like, that's amazing. Like, that just shows, like, the kind of the work you put in on the front end, and now to feel that, like, you were expecting some things to happen that did. Congrats.
Yeah, we're really excited about it because, you don't really know. Yeah, you really don't know what's going on until the state tests it, right? And when you come back and they say, well, here's all your numbers and everything passed, but then you really look at the detail and you see that, passing test is 0.4 and you're at 0.01. You know what I'm saying? So that's when you're really saying to yourself, okay, guys, what we set out to do is, we're doing it right. And like I said, we're going to, wait and season our process before we roll out our consumer brand, because our consumer brand is going to be something that I believe the cannabis industry hasn't seen yet. So I can't let it out just yet.
Oh, man, you're going to have to come back on the show, Joe, when it's out, man. That is exciting stuff. I want to follow this company and follow its growth and what you're doing. So definitely going to invite you back on the show. Keep me in mind when that consumer brand does get launched. We'll do a repeat interview. But that's about the time we have for today. But I do want to give you the opportunity, Joe. So there's some people that are listening to this that are following the industry and following brands. So if somebody does want to learn more about Six Labs and to keep following your work, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that plug, Adam. And so I have my own website, josephori.com, where it's all cannabis. I'm a trial lawyer as well, but really not doing that as much as these days as I was before for obvious reasons. And then you can follow me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or you can, follow us at sixlabs.com because, like I said, we're going to have a extremely convenient, user-friendly way to purchase cannabis, and it's part of our rollout that I indicated earlier for our consumer brand. So, yeah, I would love for people to start following us. We're just getting started, so hopefully nobody doesn't push okay when they see the amount of followers we have, because we're really just getting started. So we don't have 20,000 yet, but we'll be there soon.
Oh, man, I'm not even worried. You guys are rocking and rolling with those testing levels, and with your plan and vantage point, this consumer brand is going to be crazy. This is exciting stuff, man. I'm excited to watch your progress and to watch the company grow. So, again, Joe, thank you for coming on the show today and sharing more about what you're doing over at Six Labs, but also just the cannabis industry in general and what you've seen from your vantage point, which obviously you spend a lot of time on this and you're working with some really sharp people and have a great team. So great stuff there. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Innovation, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Joe, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Adam. Have a good day.